living as refugees in Pakistan. He doesn't want them to make the same difficult journey he made, but hopes one day they'll all be reunited.
I'm thinking that now I am alive. Now I am alive, that my heart is beating now, because something I hear that my family is alive.
You felt alive because you knew for the first time that they were alive.
Now I'm going to school and I'm trying to learn something, to do something for my family, for myself. Nothing else.
It's nice to see you smile.
Thanks.
Still to come on 60 Minutes, the story of world wood chopping champion David Foster and his determination to save his wife.
I went along and said to him for a start that, she really is about as sick as you can be and still be alive.
Finally tonight, we have a big love story with a big cast in every sense. David Foster is a world champion woodchopper, the undisputed king of Australian axemen. He's been Tasmanian of the Year and won an Order of Australia. Then, 3 years ago, a family illness cut David Foster's life in half. His wife was sick and doctors had given up all hope, but not Dave. Charles Woolley with the story of a big bloke with an even bigger heart.
Sydney's Royal Easter Show. And on centre stage, an institution for over 3 decades, Dave Foster.
Dave has won the World Championship underhand 11 years in a row.
The 56-year-old sporting legend who turns timber into toothpicks in the twinkling of an eye. And up in the stands, Dave's wife Jan, in the place where this very Australian love story began nearly 40 years ago.
I seen this beautiful woman in the grandstand and I thought I'd move in. And my line was, she had this little transistor radio, and I said, geez, that's a nice looking radio. And our conversation started from that.
When did you decide this was the bloke you wanted to marry?
I think right from the minute I met you, really.
Well, you was pretty desperate.
4 kids and 185 World Championships later, this has been a gold medal marriage. Tested and burnished by life's many contests. But then, 3 years ago, they faced a medical emergency, a challenge unlike any they'd had before.
I went along and said to him for a start that, she really is about as sick as you can be and still be alive.
And I said, she deserves whatever chance that we can give her. And all these things go through your head and the only thing different between me and everybody else is that I could actually chop wood quicker than anybody else in the world.
If ever there was a life writ large, it would be David Foster's.
Oh, I'm all right.
Wood chopping's been fantastic to me. I've captained the Australian team and I've travelled the world. I actually cleaned toilets out for a living, went to work at 2 o'clock in the morning, cleaned toilets out and then went wood chopping.
So, Charlie, you right there?
I'm right. It's not such an attractive view this way around. Dave is a fellow Tasmanian, and I first met him on 60 Minutes 16 years ago, when the big man was at the peak of his powers.
I'm twice as big as my opposition, as you've seen, but I'm very agile for my size. I'm very quick, and I do use all of my weight to the possible advantages, and that's why that I've had over 2,000 firsts in competitive wood chopping, I suppose.
So if you slim down to, say, a mere 20-stone weakling, you wouldn't be able to chop through that wood as quickly?
Well, that's what I'm saying to myself.
The whole family were built like axemen. Son Stephen, daughter Janelle, and later the twins, Kate and Sally. All of them a chip off the old block.
Just like his father. And more spuds, mate.
The Foster family were also champion eaters. Dinner was a serious business with no time for chatter. But faced with the threat of obesity, this big happy family needed to change.
Years ago, it would have been fat, but now it's olive oil.
Today, it's a much healthier diet.
Dad never ate fish in his life.
And it worked. Between them, the Fosters shed 200 kilos. It's a whole person has vanished from this table who used to be here.
We'd got in a bit of a health kick. We started to get ourselves fit, and so life was going really, really good. If it makes any sense, and I think a lot of people might kind of realise this as you get older, I think Jan and I kind of fell back in love again.
But unbeknown to this now much healthier, fitter family,
Come on, Mum, you can go harder than me.
You're hitting harder than...
an invisible medical danger was lurking inside Jan's brain.
8,
Left, right, left.
9.
What were you told was wrong?
Well, they told me that she had a brain aneurysm, and she had a stroke, and she went into a seizure, and then her heart stopped. And
The scene, May 12, 2010, and the Foster family's morning fitness regime on the beach at Devonport. The doctors say what followed could have happened anywhere and at any time.
nearly to the end of our training, Jan, I looked around and she was as white as a ghost. So I took her to the hospital and they got her in straight away, and she had nothing wrong. They put the heart things on her and her heart was right. She had no blood pressure and this massive headache that she had. So I went to ring up my girls and I was only out there for 2 minutes and then come back into the hospital and they said, sorry, Dave, you can't come in. Jan's had a seizure.
Up next on 60 Minutes, his wife critically ill, Dave Foster takes on the biggest battle of his life.
She said, well, there's a 95% chance of her spending the rest of her life in a nursing home and a 5% chance of her coming home.
Those are not good odds.
But it's an odd.
A brain scan at the Royal Hobart Hospital would reveal a 2-centimetre aneurysm bulging out of Jan's carotid artery. Jan was lucky to be alive, though only just.
Unfortunately, they couldn't do nothing with her. Jan was going to die. And I just really pushed the issue about, you know, there is a guy in Melbourne that can do it. He is the best.
She was really critically unwell. Her conscious state was very poor. She was in a deep coma.
That guy was Dr. John Laidlaw, a Melbourne neurosurgeon and one of the best. And Jan presented with one of the worst aneurysms he'd ever treated.
She wasn't eye-opening. She wasn't making any noises at all, no sounds.
So in layman's terms, she's hardly there at all.
I went along and said to him for a start that, you know, she really is about as sick as you can be and still be alive. The chance of her surviving really wasn't very good at all.
But surgery would bring its own risks.
He said, I would nearly think that let nature take its course. Because he said, well, there's a 95% chance of her spending the rest of her life in a nursing home and a 5% chance of her coming home.
Those are not good odds.
But it's an odd. And I went 5 to him.
So he doesn't really want to do it unless you really want him to do it.
And I said, nah, she deserves whatever chance that we can give her. We've got technology today, and I knew she was a stubborn bitch. So, you want me to cut that?
No, that's you.
Nah.
We'll go with that. The surgical team decided the best option would be to float a tube from Jan's groin up through the whole body into the brain and into the aneurysm.
The radiologist took the tube all the way up until it was actually sitting in the aneurysm, and then through that pushed some little coils, which are platinum, very, very fine platinum wire, which is coiled up like a tiny little spring, and that filled up the aneurysm so the blood couldn't get in there.
The coils successfully dammed the flow of blood, blocking the aneurysm, but the odds were still against her. Several days passed, with Jan hovering between life and death.
I said, no, I thought her chance of survival would, much less than 50%, and there's probably a high chance that she wouldn't ever be, able to function even semi-independently.
But Big Dave Foster wasn't one to give up, nor one to leave his wife's side, especially on their 33rd wedding anniversary.
We were married on the 15th of May, and I'm holding Jan's hand, and this is our wedding anniversary, and you're thinking this is going to be the last time that, that we're going to have an anniversary together or something. All these things go through your head, and
Now, I know that you're a big softie. I reckon there'd have been a few tears.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was holding her hand, and I said, well, happy anniversary, darling. And I swear that she squeezed my hand. And I said to the nurse, she squeezed my hand. She squeezed my hand and said, oh, yeah. I said, no, she did. I'm telling you, she did. And they checked it on and said, no, David, there's been no change. And I sat there. I sat there for 6 hours because I thought if she wanted me to be there, I was going to be there.
Unbelievably, and against all medical prediction, Jan started to come back to life. But it would be a slow and painful 2 years of recovery.
6, okay? Yep. Shoulders back. Here we
and
go.
It's not over yet.
1.
But for every step, Dave is there, willing her on. Everyone loves him. I see why you love him.
Yeah.
He is a lovable bloke, isn't he?
Yes, he is, yep. And I'd be lost without him now, especially now. But, like David said, what goes around comes around, and we look after each other.
These days, as Jan gets better, Dave can breathe just that little bit easier.
Listen there, tomtit. In a minute we'll hear the bloody black cockatoo.
And take time to return to a favourite piece of bush in northwest Tasmania for quiet reflection.
The things that I miss is that I'm a hugger and kisser, and I love that side of it. And, she doesn't come and hug me anymore because that part of the brain has gone. And that's the thing that I probably miss the most.
That's sad. Because this has been a great love affair.
Yeah, it has. Well, you go through ups and downs in life, and every marriage does that. She's been a fantastic support, and the reason that I've been so successful in everything that I've done is because of her.
Youth may be wasted on the young, but love, if Dave and Jan Foster are any guide, is unblunted by time and keener than the sharpest axe.
But stick with me.
Still went well.
Stick with me.
Yeah.
Don't you go look at them young fellas down there. She's still mine. Beautiful.
That's all from us tonight, but before we go, here's a preview of what's coming up next week on 60 Minutes. He fell victim to an elaborate hoax while on holiday in Thailand. It cost him his life savings, and now he's on a mission to scam the scammers.
And the latest victim in this audacious con, known as Black Money, is Australian Rob Connolly.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing, eh? It was the worst decision I've ever made in my life. Yeah, I really feel like I've let my family down.
And yourself?
Yeah, myself.
That story next week. We'd love to have your feedback at 60minutes@skytv.co.nz. Thank you for joining us. Have a very good night.